The stickman even believed that he had secured his place in a spectacle of political stability, something solid, predictable, where everything would be under control, with Trump in charge as a guarantee of order. He repeated this phrase as a mantra, a kind of tranquilizer against everyday anxiety. I imagined the next few years peaceful, with clear decisions, laws working, and the country moving in a straight line. But that trust, built on promises and hopes, began to crack. A court decision, here, another their entire policies being overturned, rules revoked, and public data that had mysteriously disappeared reappearing without warning. All of this created a strange feeling. It wasn't control, it was confusion disguised as power. The stickman felt the ground slip out from under his feet when he realized that what he imagined as stability was actually a runaway train. A train that not only did not stop, but accelerated more and more, derailing towards chaos. The illusion of control disappeared before his eyes, and the dream of political order became a nightmare of uncertainty and contradiction, the exact opposite of what he expected when he repeated that mantra that, in the end, was nothing more than an empty phrase. Even stuck with the idea that everything was under control, the stickman desperately tried to convince himself that nothing would go out of place. He repeated to himself like a mantra, almost hypnotic, "Trump is in control, ... Trump is in control, ... as if repetition could turn the illusion into reality. But as much as he wanted to believe, the world around him didn't cooperate. Each morning, new news overturned the promises made the day before. Judges canceled important measures as if they were erasing drawings on the blackboard of politics, leaving behind only disconnected scribbles. Businessmen, who had once hoped for growth, now complained bitterly about the tariffs imposed, which looked more like invisible walls destroying trade and holding back the economy. Tourism workers, who once dreamed of months full of customers, faced empty hotels and abandoned attractions. All this passed in front of the stickman, who could only babble his desperate repetition, trying to drown the chaos with empty words. The promised freedom, it seemed like a bad joke, a promise that never got off the ground. He was stuck in a cycle where chaos advanced and hope retreated on. All he had left was that repetition that felt more like a meaningless echo. Echoing inside his own confused mind, the stickman was at the center of a stage where everyone expected to see a leader. Someone who really had the reins of the country in his hands. But what he saw was a true show of contradictions and improvisations. The promises of absolute control sounded more like bad jokes than serious statements. Meanwhile, decisions that were supposed to be final were quickly reversed, leaving everyone lost. The protests, instead of decreasing, only increased, like waves that no one knew how to contain. And the economy? This one plummeted like a toy that falls off the shelf, leaving entrepreneurs and workers wondering if it would ever stabilize. To outsiders, the irony was evident, a show without a clear script where coherence had disappeared in the first act. The stickman deep down knew that the real problem was not that the show went on, but that it no longer made any sense. Between promises, he sighed, thinking, does anyone still believe that? If you also want to see beyond the curtains and understand the real piece they are showing us, subscribe to the channel. Here, we dismantle the show and show the reality that no one wants you to see. The stickman tried to indulge in celebrating so-called political victories, that moment of rest for those who believe control has been gained. He took his cigar, a classic symbol of great achievements, and tried to light it, imagining that the spark would symbolize the fire of steadfast leadership and progress. But the lighter stubbornly didn't work. With each frustrated click, new news emerged to extinguish any spark of success. A court ruling nullified important measures. Another crisis arose in tourism, and protests erupted like unexpected storms. It was like trying to keep a flame alive in the middle of a hurricane. Impossible, exhausting, and, above all, frustrating. The stickman sighed, tired of fighting forces he barely understood. He knew that that fire would never really be lit. What about you? Are you tired of trying to see light where there is only political darkness? Leave here in the comments what you think of this lost battle between promise and reality. His comment may be the spark that ignites the flame of debate and truth. The stickman was completely overwhelmed trying to keep up with the frenetic pace of the news that kept coming. It was like trying to drink water from a fire hose, impossible to control, impossible to absorb it all. The headlines flashed endlessly, political decisions being undone, economic crises exploding, protests gaining momentum. He tried to process every piece of information, but everything happened too fast, a flood that gave no respite. He tried to cling to some certainty, but soon he was thrown into another wave of chaos. Gradually, the stickman realized something that left him completely bewildered. He wasn't the captain of that turbulent ship, nor was he even in command of the helm. In fact, he was just a passenger adrift, lost, and with no idea where the boat was going. No control, no power, just watching as the churning waters took him to unknown places. And the illusion of security he had sought so much disappeared, leaving only the bitter truth that, in the end, control was never his. At the height of the crisis, the stickman watched with a mixture of incredulity and resignation everything crumble around him. The grandiose promises of total control crumbled like sandcastles in the face of the merciless waves of reality. The internal quarrels between allies, which once seemed mere disagreements, were now real conflicts that undermined any hope of stability. The legal twists and turns appeared at every moment, like pieces in a game without rules, annulling important decisions and leaving everyone without direction. The economy, which should be the pillar of confidence, staggered unsteadily, teetering dangerously on the edge of the abyss. The stickman felt the inevitability of that fall, because when no one knows exactly who is in charge, when leadership is fragmented and contradictory, failure ceases to be a possibility to become a certainty. He realized that the illusion of control was nothing more than a mask that slowly fell off, revealing the chaos that had always been there, hidden behind the empty words. As I watched all this, the only question remained: who would hold the rope before the world collapsed for good? At the end of the journey, the stickman found himself standing in front of a fork in the road he never imagined facing, continued to believe in that sweet but false illusion of control, or accept once and for all that chaos is really in charge. The illusion felt comfortable. It was a bit of a relief to believe that everything was on a firm leash, that someone knew what they were doing. But the price of this belief was too high, charged in the form of frustration, uncertainty, and the constant feeling of being manipulated by invisible forces. While he faced this harsh reality, on the screen in front of him a new video began to play, an invitation for those who want to look beyond appearances and understand what really happens behind the political curtains. If you, like him, want to get out of the fog of misinformation and see the truth without filters, follow the video that is playing on the screen now. That image seemed to say, the stickman took a deep breath, ready to face this new stage, because, at the end of the day, it's not worth continuing to believe that Trump is in control. And you, are you going to stand there, or are you going to click to see what no one told you?